Hi, Derek Morgan here. In this video, we're going to take a look at workflows. So workflows is an application where you start to build systems and processes around your engagement as a mentor with mentees or with clients. So if there's a particular process that you're going to take somebody through and there's multiple steps in that process and you think that you're going to use that process more than once, then you might want to think about setting up a workflow so that then you can apply the workflow to future projects, and it makes it really simple to systemize, duplicate and scale processes with your mentees or your clients. So come down the left hand menu, click on workflow, and basically what you're seeing here in workflows, think of these as three filing cabinets. The private filing cabinet are workflows and processes that only you can use and access and work with. So this might be, look, who knows, different industries, different businesses, different professions may create their own workflows to apply to themselves for a whole range of different reasons. So a little bit difficult for me to come up with a specific example there. The shared folder is where you want to create a workflow that you have the ability to then share that workflow with others. Okay, so you might have mentees that you want to share that workflow with and let them use it themselves as opposed to apply it to just one specific project. Okay, and then publics, obviously, if you create a workflow and put it in public, other mentors and mentees can access that workflow and choose to apply it themselves. Okay, so these are really interesting distinctions. Shared might be something where you're working in a mentoring account where you might want to have some control over the IP and how you're using it. But then there might be other things, systems and processes that you're happy to create and give the entire community the discretion to access that and use it at your will. So if you're working within an organization, sharing within certain departments or certain executive levels or whatever might be relevant, but there might be other functionality that you want to share across the entire organization and allow them to access. And it might be the same, like if you're a coach running your own private Mentify account just for your mentoring community, it might be an inner circle or mastermind group where you're charging them a premium, and to come in and access all of these details, they're paying a membership. And once you give them access to the platform, you're then giving them access to that IP that they're paying a premium for. So they stay on the platform whilst they're in the inner circle or mastermind group and they're paying their membership. But beyond that, then you might take them out of the group if they stop paying. So that might be a situation where you put your IP or your workflows and processes, you just make it public, and then you're charging people to come onto the platform to access this. Likewise, you might use workflows to give access to basic systems and processes to a broader community where you're trying to use Mentify as a coach or as an organization as a lead generation platform. So you build in some systems and processes on the platform around workflows and projects, and then you use free access to the Mentify account as a lead generation tool. So you might bundle it in as part of a product offer to support something else that you're, some other higher ticket item that you're actually selling, and you're bundling in access to your IP and access to you on the Mentify platform as a hook for them to pay a premium for some other item that you're selling. So you're bundling that together as an offer with Mentify. So you can build some massive value into Mentify, whether you're giving the access to the platform away as a lead gen, or whether you're giving access to the platform away as part of a higher paid membership subscription that you're charging off platform for. So just some things to think about. Okay, so if we come into the public account, we can see that we've got a demo workflow here. We can create a new workflow. We give the workflow a name. We decide on whether it's private, shared or public, and then we give the demo or the new workflow a description of what the workflow is about, or maybe the circumstances in which this workflow would be used. Okay, so once we've created the demo workflow, we can come in here and open the workflow. Okay, and we can edit all of the details and save that, and we can add new workflow items. So if I go, right, I want to add a new workflow item, I can give it a subject, and let's call it WF2. We give it a description. That's not a 2. Okay, so we give it a description of blah, and now we can come in and start to decide whether there's whether we've just got a bunch of items that need to be worked through and like a checklist and ticked off, and there's no interdependency. It's just there's a whole bunch of things that you need to do around a particular workflow or concept. Okay, or is there a natural flow and an order of deliverability that needs to be built into the workflow? So are there dependencies? So if there are dependencies, we might go, okay, look, it's not a requirement that a particular activity be done in an order of sequence, but they might be related, and you might, if someone's starting at 8, they may need to refer to activity 1 as an example, as part of the process of completing activity 8. So in this case, we'd say, okay, this activity relates to sample activity. Now this activity, do we want to make this the first activity? Now in this example, I've already made sample activity the number 1 first step, but if we're building out a workflow and we want to reorder it, I could make this the first step, which would automatically push sample activity into the second step. So we're going to go, no, this is a sequential step. Now, typically in a mentoring process, you're not going to use the budgeted hours or budgeted dollars, but you may, the user or you as a mentor may want to track how much time an individual is spending on this. Okay, so you might suggest that in this activity, they shouldn't be spending more than $2,000, and it shouldn't be costing them more than 10 hours in effort. And if it's costing them more than 10 hours and more than that amount of money, then they may need to think about who they're outsourcing it to, or if they're doing it themselves, what's the value of their time and should they even be doing it? Now you can create an activity time around what needs to be done as part of this process. And if this is an activity that you're involved in as a mentor or a coach to a client, you actually might want to, part of this process, go, you know what? This is actually a billable. This is something that's outside of the scope of what I normally do. And if you want me to do this, then this is going to be billable, in which case you would tell them that this is what you expect to charge them, and this is the hours that you expect that it will take. And now you've got a bit of a benchmark to deal with scope creep if you're actually going to use this platform to actually charge clients. So you're doing some mentoring, but you might be doing some consulting services as part of a project with them. Now you can start to build in the fact that you're going to bill them, and the client's well aware of that, or the mentee is well aware of where the mentoring process stops and the consultative process starts. Okay, so we just click save. Okay, required field. So this is a task. Okay, so now to build out our sequence or build out our workflow, we would just keep going through and adding those details. Now, if there is an attachment, we can then add an attachment as a resource to that task. Okie doke. So we can select files here. If you're using like a shared drive, then obviously you would simply put the resources, make reference to the resources in here and post the link in the description. So if you're using OneDrive or Dropbox or Google Drive or whatever, so you can you could link to a folder or link to an individual document there. Okay, so hope you found that useful. You can build out some really complex processes there. And obviously when you're looking at the projects video, this works particularly well with projects. You can use workflows just purely as a record of process, but when you use it with projects, you can apply a workflow to a project and now think of this as an operations manual. Now your operations manual becomes a living, breathing document. So also what happens when you come back in and edit a workflow in future, it basically updates your entire network in real time. So the very next time that the workflow gets applied as a process or referenced, you know that your entire network is working from that point on with the most recent version. Okay, so hope that was useful. Thanks.